is J5Lover, your #1 Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson fan, and today I'm going to talk about some of my Jackson 5 wishes. But before we get started with that, let's talk about this day in Jackson 5 history. Well, this day in Jackson 5 history, November 9th, 1972, the Jackson 5 star on Top of the Pops, and they sing Looking Through the Windows and Rockin' Robin, as seen here.
He rocks in the streets of all day long. Iceman and Sons, singing his song. I thought the baby on J5 State. Let me in the rhyme and go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rock your Robin, oh, rock, rock, rock your Robin. Blow rock your Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock it tonight. Hey!
Awesome performance. I love those songs. They're both really great, and I just love any of the Jackson 5's performances. Well, getting back to my Jackson 5 wishes, I think all of us fans, all of us Michael Jackson, Jackson 5, Jackson's fans, Moonwalkers, we all kind of have our wishes of things that maybe we wish would have been released, or that Michael Jackson or his family maybe would have done, you know, for their career, or interesting little tidbits and things like that. Well, I wanted to talk about my top 5 things that I wish would have been released for the Jackson 5 during the Jackson 5 era. All right, my first thing, I wish there had been a Jackson 5 sitcom. You know, one like, you know, back in the early 70s, very similar to the Monkees or the Partridge Family or the Brady Bunch. It would have been cool to see like the Jackson 5 do a sitcom kind of loosely based on their real life. I would have loved to have sat down and watched a series like that. And of course, as you know, the Jackson 5 did do, you know, a Saturday morning cartoon. Unfortunately, they didn't use their real voices. So I think a sitcom would have been a great opportunity, not only for you to see the Jackson 5 and to hear their authentic voices, but, you know, you get a sense of their authentic self on the screen. And, you know, they could have came up with cute and fun little stories, kind of, like I said, similar to the Partridge Family or the Monkees or something. That would have been so cool, and I would have loved to have seen that, and I would still be watching it today. Interestingly enough, back in 1972, Right On Magazine did talk about the possibility of a new TV show that would air called The Funky Five. They were going to be like a Jackson 5-esque group of brothers who played music. And ironically, Donald Fullilove was one of the cast members. As you know, and I've talked about this on a previous video, he played Michael Jackson's voice in the Jackson 5 cartoon. But this TV show never came into full fruition, and I'm kind of glad that it didn't. I don't think that anybody can play the Jackson 5 better than the Jackson 5 themselves. And I'm sure they would have had to lip sync to records on TV. It wouldn't have been the same as, you know, the Jackson 5 actually, you know, singing their own records. That would have just been so cool to actually see the Jackson 5 do their own music and sitcom show. And like I said, I'm glad that never really happened, the Funky Five. I don't think it would have been the same, and I think it would have been a short-lived TV show. Okay, my second wish, I wish the Jackson 5 had done a movie, you know, similar to what the Beatles did with A Hard Day's Night or Help, you know, and once again, the movie could have sort of been loosely based on their lives. You know, it would have been really cool during the height of Jackson 5 mania to see the Jackson 5 do a movie, and, you know, they could have had their music in it, kind of like the TV show I mentioned previously too. It would have been cool to kind of have some of their songs in the movie, or even songs like made as a soundtrack specifically for the movie. That would have been really cool too. Even though the Jackson 5 weren't in any movies, they were actually set to be in a movie in 1974 called Iceman and Sons. And St. Jacques was supposed to direct this film and play their father. Now, they were supposed to play a slave family back in 1850 with Randy and Janet actually doing some kind of duet or something. Of course, the film got canned ultimately, and the Jacksons, you know, they were just too busy. They had a tour schedule that just wouldn't allow them to make this film. And I'm actually really surprised that they would agree to do that kind of a film. I don't know if it would have had the most positive reaction. It would have been cooler to see more of like a Hard Day's Night type film, something like more closer to, you know, their reality with their music in it, or, you know, some other kind of happy film. I mean, I would have liked to have seen, you know, the individual members be in other films too. I think that would have been cool, especially like Michael, because we know he was such a good actor, and of course he acted in The Wiz, but it would have been cool to see him do stuff, you know, even before The Wiz, so maybe a little bit after The Wiz. While he, you know, kind of had that look like kind of the guy next door kind of thing, I think, you know, he could have played that off so well back then. He had that certain look. But it's really a shame that the Jackson 5 didn't get to do a movie, but I am glad they did not do Iceman and Sons. That would not have, I think, gotten very good reviews and probably would have fallen into the background, and no one would probably remember a movie like that to this day. Glad they didn't do that. Okay, third wish. I wish they had made Jackson 5 dolls. For years, I have wanted a Jackson 5 set of like Jackson 5 dolls. I thought it would have been so cool once again to capture those amazing outfits that they used to wear, of course, and, you know, just kind of the younger era of the Jackson brothers. Now, of course, in 1984, they made a Michael Jackson doll, and I love it, and it's so awesome, but it would have been cool if they had, well, even then, made a set of all the brothers, but definitely in the 70s, made a Jackson 5 set. I mean, it wasn't unheard of at the time. You know, they had a Donnie and Marie Osmond doll. They had all kinds of dolls for superstars. Mego brand did a ton of dolls. You know, Diana Ross, Farrah Fawcett, Captain and Tennille, Sonny and Cher. It's like, where's Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, you know, or the Jacksons even. Very awesome. I wish it would have happened. I would have loved that. Okay, my fourth wish is a Jackson 5 clothesline. That would have been so awesome to see. Now, I know that was kind of an unusual thing. It really didn't happen much in the 70s. Nowadays you hear everybody, you know, the Kardashians, Madonna, different people have their own clothesline, you know, different rappers. But, you know, in the 70s, that was kind of really not really heard of. But, you know, say the Beatles in the 60s, they had, you know, a clothing store, a clothing brand that they pushed. And Twiggy, the model in the 60s, also had one. And a lot of different celebrities, even dating back to the 19th century, did actually have clothing lines. So it wasn't totally out of the ordinary, but it would have been cool if they, you know, had kind of mock simile clothes like of Boyd Clopton or their Ruthie West type clothes. And I think the fans would have went crazy because they were, you know, such innovators and trendsetters that I think people would have bought, you know, Jackson 5 labeled clothing in the 70s because they wanted to look like them and be like them. That would have been awesome to have those pieces now. I'm sure they'd be worth a ton of money. Fifth and final wish would have been like promotional films. For those of you who don't know, promotional films were kind of the videos pre-MTV. You know, they weren't called music videos. They were called promotional films or promo films. And they were used by celebrities, you know, if they couldn't make a TV show appearance or be in that particular town, city, or country. It was a pre-made film so that they could still, you know, play a clip of their latest single or song. Back in the 50s, Elvis did it, Bobby Darin did it, Bobby V, the Beatles did it in the 1960s. They all had promotional films just in case they wouldn't be on a TV show or they wouldn't be in that country at the time. So it wouldn't have been totally strange or unheard of for the Jackson 5 to have done the same thing in the early 70s. But the Jacksons in 1976, they started to do, you know, promotional films like Even Though You're Gone and their other album Going Places and stuff like that. Blame It on the Boogie. You start to see those kind of promotional films, and those are really awesome and they turn out great. And of course, at the time, there wasn't a ton of money spent on those things. They pretty much did those videos in one afternoon. But it would have been cool to see like a Jackson 5 era one or a few Jackson 5 ones. You know, those are my Jackson 5 wishes. Let me know down in the comments what you think of my wishes, or if you guys have other things that you wish the Jackson 5 would have done, that would have been cool. And maybe, let me know if you want me to do one on the Jacksons. I think it'd be cool to talk about my Jacksons wishes too. Like today's video, please like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments, once again, what you think. And I'm also on Instagram if you guys want to follow me there. The link's in my description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.